Studio Shangri-La podcast returns with a fresh episode. This one is called Philosophy of Immortality, the Temporal and the Timeless. Now, immortality, that's a huge word in the concept that it embodies. But it's one that's made its way into popular discourse and media, increasingly so. Whether it's through movies, music, social media channels, spirituality, etc. This is a topic that is on deck. And most often in a technological context, that we've made the technological advances, scientific advances necessary to make this a reality. And you see more and more news coming out every day, really, which is a property of the interconnectedness of us all, that these advances happen so much more quickly because of our interconnectedness and the sharing of information and comparing notes and drawing conclusions from the work of someone else and building on the works of someone else. So a lot of advances are being made in the realm of longevity, from stem cell treatment to all kinds of therapies, holistic and self-care therapies, more invasive that I'm not such a fan of, and just a general advance in the understanding of human biology, and the inner workings of ourselves. Self-knowledge, right? An increasing amount of self-knowledge, because that's what biology, the study of the body, the human body, among other things, is all about. And there's a lot of therapeutic modalities that I can access now that 10 years ago I couldn't have. A mere 10 years ago. And in some cases even 5 years ago. That the developments are happening in a more accelerated fashion now. What I'm going to continue talking about, though, is not technology and invention. Well, it's the underlying thought and philosophy of immortality. The mindset and the belief in it. The belief that humanity has the ability to continue choosing and to continue evolving, because that's what life does. That's what life is created to do. Life is created to create. So we can change our programming technologically. We can also change our programming from the inside. That we are steering the ship that is ourself. And we can guide ourselves in the direction of longevity and even immortality. And whenever I talk about this, I always try to say the disclaimer that not everyone wants that. But for those who do, there's going to be a lot of amazing and interesting developments and events that will occur to be around for it. So the subtitle here is The Temporal and the Timeless. I have something to pose for you. A message I received from meditation. I get a lot of ideas from meditation and dreams. And the temporal can be equated as hell, if you will, quote unquote. The temporal can be equated with a cycle or pattern that one can get stuck in and continue repeating. The temporal can be just being stuck in a finite mindset, whereas the timeless is the infinite, of course, and the open-ended that allows for continued development and progression. So you could be stuck in temporal concerns of thinking about death and degeneration and whatnot, and being stuck in that culture, not just thinking about those things directly, but experiencing that culture. Oh, life is short, or I've got to do it now, or I don't have any time, and if I don't do this and that, there'll be consequences, or, I'm degenerating, I'm going to be this at such and such age. All of these are becoming, in my opinion, illusory. You can see a door opening to a different way of life. And the more we learn, the more knowledge we gain. That's what's opening this door. And when I say knowledge, I say self-knowledge and knowledge of nature through science. We open our eyes that much more to the possibilities that if we want to keep on going, you know what? We can. And I understand that that is still a somewhat radical viewpoint, but it really isn't as much as it used to be, thankfully. So, if I'm thinking in a limited manner all the time, in a temporal catchphrase way all the time, the catchphrases, life is short is one of them, then that has a great effect on my physiology and the way I live my life. If I did that, well, I've switched over to the other side. But you know what? Sometimes it's difficult to stay on that more timeless side because so much of the culture and media that we're exposed to is stressy and full of urgency, that we've got to do all these things at a young, quote unquote, age, a short number of years age, which nowadays makes no sense, because we have the means to live long, very healthy lifespans. And so it makes no sense to try and cram a person's development into their formative years, or, what's considered the quote unquote youth, what's considered the peak. You know what? Biology is in motion. Evolution is in motion. And these things are not the same as they once were. And those who decide to be the exceptions to the cultural norm, or to the philosophical norm, because once you go outside the prevalent ideas or popular ideas, that's a powerful thing. And you see, whether it be thinkers, leaders, scientists, there are always people who push the boundaries and open the doors for the rest of us. And I'm excited to be part of this movement, I guess you could call it, that I've decided not to limit myself in my beliefs, and, down to my very atoms in meditation, to actively try and evolve and change something that may have been seemingly set in stone. But we know now, especially through these mirroring technological developments, in the digital world, the mirroring of ourselves is teaching us the power of programming and the continued depths to be plumbed of biology teach us about programming, and that the technological programming comes from within us, literally. And that we have a lot of potential and capability yet to use that can be developed by deliberate will. And I say it with a lot of fervor, but it's really more of a kind of relaxed sort of development, I find, ideally, in trusting the body, using beliefs and meditation and self-talk to allow the new ways to sink in. And I'm talking about here what a lot of scientific articles will put off to the side, but at least mention, so that's good, which is quantum consciousness. That's one way of saying it. The idea that there is a universal intelligence, and I'll go a step further, but by no means the first person to do that. Ahem. Nikola Tesla. I'll go a step further, like he did back in the day, and say that we're all connected to this universal intelligence and can even tap into it. Our brains being like receivers, because our biology, our physicality is interacting with our environment and with the universe on different levels. So how are we interacting with the field, the fabric of the universe? And can we tap into it for information, guidance? And from my experience, the answer to that is yes. That it is possible to draw energy and spiritual nourishment from the best way I can say it is from the field, from the energy, the field of energy that's all pervasive, that surrounds us all, from God universe, from whatever you want to call it. I had another intriguing dream somewhat recently that made a reference to the Hebrew 72 names of God. Now, you might say that's a funny thing to dream about, but when your head's where my head is at, not really. I dreamed about rushing off to Gate 72 in an airport, and I was made to understand in the dream that it was a metaphor for the 72 names of God. Like, wherever you're rushing off to in all this haste and urgency, you know that it is all God. Whatever you want to call it, it is all universe, and that each of us is a part of it all. And that we can have it all if we want to. So and there's nothing wrong with using the 72 names of God, or, listing and enumerating and so many different labels of this or that thing, from the large to the small, to the invisible, to the naked eye. It's all the 72 names of God. So that's the understanding I got from the dream. And that is precisely the sort of timeless, limitless sort of thinking that I believe leads to immortality. That there are ways to exist. There are different ways to exist. And possibly ones that haven't been done before, or have been done on the down low, or by a select minority. So, tapping into the electromagnetic energy that surrounds us all, it's both science and spirituality. Now, another thing that I'll mention here in philosophy of immortality is that we can learn something, of course, from nature. Here again, is that it's possible to go through cycles of life and transformation and be continually regenerated. So there might be periods of falling back or of dormancy or of some degeneration, followed by periods of regeneration and furthering, like the seasons, where you'll have a tree or a plant that goes dormant or degenerates back a bit only to bloom again in the next season. Or there are plants that bloom all year long too. We have only to look to the earth and nature for inspirations on how to do this. And I'll point this out once again in this episode, that the earth and nature have been around much longer than we have, and in fact gave birth to us. And so, but even the building blocks of the plants we see, the microorganisms and such, those have been around much longer. And so there's a lot to be learned about longevity and immortality from nature. And of course, this is one of my favorite topics. So, in a person's life, the timeless way of being is to allow oneself to go through transformational cycles, seeing it as open-ended and finding the path to regeneration afterwards, or seeing it as a process of, and I'm going to use this word because I've been on the quantum computing lately, is seeing the person in a process of annealing, where you go through this phase shift that goes back and forth until you produce something that is better and stronger. Now, some people could confuse this with death. There might be pain or discomfort when you're going through cycles of transformation. I really believe that if one wants to keep on living a really long life and even set sights on ending life, that you work your way through these painful and uncomfortable times, realizing that it's not death as in finite, it's temporary death. It's a dying off of something in order to create something new. So in this way, in this timeless view, death has a new purpose within the life. The death of something that I used to be, or that's no longer useful, or a trait, or some kind of genetic switch, where you just go and you turn on a couple of other ones, and you keep going. And you keep learning and doing different things. I believe philosophically that immortality is just merely a choice at the root. It's a deep belief that one can cultivate, and it seeps down to your very atoms as you believe it. Okay? Of course, there are other lifestyle factors that one can adopt as a result of this. For example, taking a more leisurely, open-ended pace and attitude to different situations. And I'm still retraining myself on that, but as far as I've gotten with it so far, it's only enriched my life experience. I still have a lot of work to do on that, of course. Work, I mean, the work of progress, the work of love and care, of being alive. And I would say to want to exist in peak health and optimal form, that is well and good. I think it's an illusion, perhaps, that it's wrong to want this. That the norm should be wanting to age and degenerate. This could be viewed as a temporal sort of hell. That's just one perspective on it. That's my perspective on it. But it's per the title of a conference I went to recently, it is the new space age that we're embarking on. And part of what that means is that we get opened up to new scales and new ways of thinking about time. Because once we leave Earth's orbit, we're no longer defined by the sun and the moon anymore. If we're going out into space, there are different determiners. So, which underscores the fact that time is a system of measurement that was invented for organization. Now, does it have to define biology? No, I don't think so. It's come to, but no, I don't think it has to. And we'll finish by saying that systems of belief do, in fact, influence biology and shape biology. So now as we open up our possibilities, we open our lifespans. All right. This has been Philosophy of Immortality. The Temporal and the Timeless. Sounds kind of like the soap opera title. A really juicy one, I think. To find out more, please visit the website www.studio-shangri-la.com. Always open to guests and suggested topics. Till next time.